All right, here I'm going to show how to do customer segmentation all in Excel and why that might be useful. So actually, let's first start with why you may want to do customer segmentation. You may have your own reasons, but there's four reasons that I can think of. One is once you know the customer segments, you can tailor your messaging differently to the different customer segments. So today in email, you may be saying sending out the same email to everyone with some personalization, but not in essentially very different messaging to the very different segments. So it will enable you to do that. Secondly, if you're advertising on Google and Meta, you can pick the audiences you want to advertise to. And if you have them broken down in customer segments, what segments are doing well versus not, you can use that into audience targeting on both Google and Meta. Third, you can personalize your offer, your promotions, even your pricing differently to the different customer segments, knowing what works for what segments. And fourth, you can calculate lifetime value by segments. So you know which segments are doing well for you versus maybe not as doing as well. Now, again, there might be other reasons as well, but certainly there are quite a few reasons why you may want to do this. Now, here you can see I have an Excel open, and this is just sample data. If I scroll down here, there's about 400 rows. So it's a small size, small data set. Usually, if you want to do customer segmentation in Excel, you can do it if you, let's say, less than 100,000 rows. After that, it starts becoming too much. And at that point, you may want to move off Excel. You could still use something like Claude and build it in an app, but that's a little bit more involved. Here, let's assume you have less than 100,000 rows and you can use AI to do this in Excel. And when I say AI, you can see I have Claude here, which is what I've used to build this. And I also have Copilot. So you could use either. In fact, you could even use both, build two models and then compare them. So that's an option as well. Now I'm going to go to this other tab in Excel here, which is the original raw data that you can automatically pull from a database. Once you have the SQL query, you can automatically populate this database every time you have new data come in. And again, as I said, and there's only about 400 rows here. You could have a lot more. And the columns are income, average purchase, last year's purchases per customer, and number of dependents. Now, of course, you may have more columns, more attributes as well. But once you have this raw data, everything else is now Claude built it using specific formulae, right? So it's all built in Excel. And it's a machine learning algorithm called k-means clustering. Now, I don't necessarily want to get into details on how that works and what k-means clustering is. But what the output is the AI, or the machine learning in this case, came up saying ideally there are four clusters or four customer segments, if you will. And the interesting thing then is, of course, it gives you some information on each of those. But the more interesting thing here is it describes what those customer segments are. So one is budget families, low income, low average purchase. Second customer segment is retirees, mid income, moderate, high purchase, etc. A third customer segment, suburban parents and young professionals. So this gives a lot of insights because it's actually described in English what these are. So again, I just want to end there.